Hey, Megan. Hey, Megan. Will you go on to our website and see if it's streaming?
Yep, hang on.
Oh, yeah, because they're having problems.
Can't tell if it's streaming or not.
Neil is saying that he can see you on.
Okay, so he's on my Zoom. Okay, so it's got a little bit of delay on it.
Sure.
But how do I got, so if I go to my Zoom. So I've got my volume all the way down. Can you flip that camera? No? I'm gonna do just like set it up and try to capture as much as I can.
I guess.
Yeah, okay. And then you're still gonna record, so.
Use that lectern. You're not using it.
Can you try to get the live stream up and see what we're getting? Because I can't see on Zoom and on the live stream.
Yep.
Okay. So what should I do with the like where should I point the camera at? Here's what we're getting. Oh, okay, that's not too bad actually. I'm gonna turn my volume on. Okay, thank you.
You are seen and heard.
Okay. Well, that's what he's gonna we'll have a good recording tomorrow. He's gonna record and we'll just have to figure it out from there.
So the further back we get this, the more of the room we can get.
You know more than I do, so.
What's the battery on that?
Oh, yeah, good point. We can bring a backup battery.
Or I was grab an adapter.
Yeah.
Is Neil on the phone with you still?
Yes.
We ask him if he can hear me.
And he says he can.
Really?
Yeah.
The volume's down. How's that work?
How about from right here? You can still hear them, can't you, Neil? Here. Yeah, so the volume being down here is just the volume of the computer. The microphone's still working. Still catching it.
Okay, good. And so there's two of you guys coming?
That is a little trippy.
Great. I'll try to get Tony to sit over here.
He's too much of a bother if he's up front. You'll remember.
I know Tony Deborah, yeah. I know his wife from Sheldon. A little bit lag, but.
Yeah. Well, are you wanting to leave this up and running until
Yeah.
it starts? Okay.
That's my docking, so that's my computer at my desk, so it should have a good charge on it, because I just took it off.
Okay.
But we do have plug-in, you think I should grab it?
You should probably, yeah, if you have a power cord,
There.
yeah. Go to the left just a hair. Yes.
We're checking them out.
Yeah, so if it's at capacity, you're gonna have to.
All right.
And if there's.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with me on the phone.
If you think you're full class.
I have that charger.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that.
I think I'm kind of pacify the people maybe. Can I offer you something to drink, a glass of water or hot tea or anything?
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you very much, though. Yeah, I'll figure that out, Neil. All right. Thanks, man. Bye. Oh, what a bummer.
Just an FYI, the mic's hot and it is being streamed live now, so.
Good reminder. All of YouTube can see.
I apologize. Amy.
No, it's.
I figured all the time that I got here in advance would be fail-safe.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you know how to use this better. You should have seen what I tried to do. But, I don't know which one of these are gonna fit or they may be.
Look like they are.
Okay.
Let's see.
And if I need to have another extension, I can get another extension cord.
There's an outlet right here.
Okay.
Where does it usually go? And is it in the back? There it is.
Is this what it's C right there?
Yes.
That's really a good view, actually.
Not too bad.
I mean, it's not gonna be as fancy as you guys, the recording will be, but
Yeah, I'm still gonna record
Mhm.
and I'll swap between
Yeah.
shots and get tighter on people.
yeah. Hi, I want you right here, please.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
most of the-
Well, and you're gonna be. If not, I'll leave mine. Right, my password is 8689. And if we are being, it's streaming live, you know, so. So we're here.
Ultimately, a lot of that, all of the people are gonna have to take the law.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
That extent
Yeah.
is not
Fair.
valid.
Just not, in my. Set up for 7, no, it might not be able to do it.
You should be able to call in 30 minutes before.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to My Town Conversation. Please enter a participant code. You are the only person on this conference. Please stay on the line.
Is that working?
Or club or something. There's a whole.
Blind people?
So luxurious in here, so spacious. Jarwood, how are you?
Good, what's going on?
You got nothing at all.
Sure, always get me. Good idea.
Bring it on. Here's the card.
That's what it's in now.
Yeah, for the coastal crossing, the teachers.
Oh. I don't have a charger.
No, it's- would just start.
For the planning commissioners just that came in, we are streaming live and the recording is on.
Appreciate that. All of it.
Thanks for the warning.
You want that? You have.
I have one in the truck. You need one?
We're requiring it, yeah.
Yep. Sure. I missed that part, sorry, Jeff.
No big deal. I don't have one.
We do have one.
I'll grab you one.
You got one.
Can you hear me when I talk?
Huh?
Good. Just kidding.
You want me to just use my hands?
It's fine, just let him know if he needs it.
I'll take one, yeah.
Glasses are fine.
Just say something. I thought it was wrong. Very wrong. So this one.
Hi, how are you? Hi. I didn't get you signed up. Are you coming to speak tonight? Come on up. No, come on.
Sent my letter
Oh, did you? Okay, good. Okay.
You're gonna have the loudest. Right there, somebody kind of the top three, really loud three. It's good for the computer. Yeah, I have one of those. I have a charger that, USB, a wireless charger. Yeah, yeah. But it has one of those USB. Is that USB? Or is that Apple? Yeah, you'd rather use your own.
I'd rather use mine.
That's
But I don't know if they're gonna have it charged.
a good point.
No, I'm just here. I'm riding quarterback, you're the center.
Actually,
You know, what if I had a snorkel, you know, that'd be perfect. Or, I mean, a face mask for, you know.
Set yours in the middle. Sure. The charging. Red way to do it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Huh. Usually it's just right away. And it's just right in the middle. Here, I'll show you how it's charge. So I don't know, maybe you're just. It's really like better than most. Move it around. Much charging time, because it looks like. I think you'll be fine with a half, because you're only going to be using the clock. Oh, I'll move this out of the way so it's not.
I have both of our presenters are here.
There you go.
Yeah, go ahead and start the meeting. I'm gonna be busy out here, so anything that's handed out needs a copy to go to Ann. No, there already is. They're already telling me that they have stuff, so, I just need Ann to get the copy.
Are you ready?
FYI.
You can get rolling anytime you're ready. Right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. So, first thing we do is we'll do a roll call.
Okay, I'll do roll call. Commissioner Clark. Ready? Commissioner Doyle. Commissioner Davey. Commissioner Derby. Here. Commissioner Marshall. Here. Chair Wood.
Chris?
Do we have Commissioner Thompson on the phone?
Yes, you do here.
Thank you. All right.
So, today for the agenda review, Bill Green page, our agenda. The only change to it is we're gonna move the approval of 2 minutes to the next meeting. So, from March 11th, minutes will go to the next meeting. Any questions about the agenda? So, after, the agenda review, we're skipping the approval of minutes, so we're gonna go straight to, public testimony.
That's a general testimony, so I'll have to check and see. what kind of situation is.
Okay. Yeah, they're all fogged up. I have no idea.
No general protest.
So we're going straight to the,
Ann,
Langford subdivision.
is there anybody with us on the phone? Thank you. Hi, Ann. Paul Thompson, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Paul. Thank you. Damien?
You might not.
Anybody else on the phone besides Ann and Paul? Thank you.
Ready for the.
So, yes, I think you can read the first thing.
All right, yep, we're gonna open a public hearing for a Whiteford subdivision. It's a public hearing, my name is William Wood, and I'll be chairing the hearing. This hearing is being recorded and live streamed, so everything you say will be recorded. And it's gonna start, the clock says 7:15, but that's accurate.
I got 7:10.
Right, so we'll call it 7:10. And I'll now open the public hearing on sub 0120. The applicant has requested a subdivision of 1 legal lot into 15 legal lots of assessors, and the map reference is recorded. The resulting subdivision will create 46 lots of single-family dwellings and set aside 4 lots for open space. Do any of the planning commission members wish to abstain or declare a conflict of interest or report any ex parte contact on this matter? Good, we're good. All right, so just as a rule, the planning commission must disclose any ex parte contact or conflict of interest and allow any person to challenge the decision maker with bias. A conflict of interest involves a situation where the decision maker, his or her family or business would financially benefit or suffer from the decision. Any ex parte contact is a communication to the decision maker. That includes substantive issues. That also occurs outside of the public venue. Does any person wish to challenge the impartiality of the hearing officials or the jurisdiction of the hearing official to hear this matter? I think we're good. So the hearing will be conducted in accordance with the state covert code and state law. And this law requires me to tell you a number of things. The application, substantive criteria that apply to the application are contained in the written staff report and will be identified and discussed in the oral staff report. Your testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or development code that you believe apply to the application. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements of evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or other people in a court. One thing. All right, I'll just start off with failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements of evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or other people an opportunity to respond may preclude a appeal of decision on this application based on that issue. to the applicant, failure to raise constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. The following procedures will be used for this hearing. We'll have the staff report, then we'll have the applicant's presentation, and then y'all's public testimony. The staff provides response to the testimony. We'll have an applicant rebuttal, then the planning commission questions of staff or applicant, and then we'll close the hearing on the record, and then the commission will deliberate and make a decision. So, Jeff, staff report.
Chair Wood. This is, as Chair stated, a public hearing for a subdivision 0120. Property owner and applicant, Drew-Biker Custom Homes Incorporated. The applicable criteria are the district regulations, traditional residential, and supplementary district regulations, which include all regulations for all districts. And also the land division, Article 12, which is the code zone, all in the code zone, code A200I. This request would result in subdivision of a lot which would create 46 single-family lots for single-family dwellings. Total subdivisions for 15 equal lots is actually 4 or for set aside for open space. The lot itself is currently partially within the city limits. 3 acres of it, roughly outside of our city limits within Lane County. But they have applied for a partition at the city limits subsequently with this application as well. We just got word today from Lane County that they approved that partition. Here, some of the issues identified. One is street connections or street connections to the site are the paving width and condition of the street are not up to a standard that would allow sort of traffic, additional traffic, and that was identified early on in the process. And as part of the conditions of approval, the applicant would be requiring offset improvements. Also, one issue identified is sight lines, and that has to do with a couple of corners that we're proposing subdivision, and that will be a condition related to a no build on those corners, so there's plenty of safety vision clearance. So the recommendation from staff is to approve the subdivision with the following conditions. I'm not going to go through every single criteria, just what the conditions are in approval. One of the conditions which seems like it's met is prior to the final plat approval, the applicant shall obtain a partition approval. That is city boundary from Lane County. One of the other conditions which is common in the subdivision is the design and specific details of public streets and city infrastructure, which includes wastewater, stormwater, will be reviewed separately under a public improvement review process. And all the connection points and details and other criteria will be subject to our public works standards. Third condition is related to the sight line. Site plan shall, 2 options, either be adjusted to accommodate this line of sight, for stopping distance within the public right of way, or a permanent no-build easement shall be placed on the final plat in the located site to prohibit building within that site. Condition 4 is part of the public improvement process described in condition 2. The applicant shall improve the off-site roadway access points to a minimum of 2 vehicle access lanes, or at least required access lane standards and requirements. Improvements shall include but not be limited to pavement widening, pavement on-street parking. And then as a note from Public Fire, Rural Fire, they sent along their minimum requirements. Street improvements as part of the subdivision or adjacent street connections shall be a minimum of 20 feet unobstructed, 16 feet of travel surface, and 13 feet 16 vertical clearance. Those are the conditions of approval. There, as part of the staff report, there were, I don't know how many, I think 6 or 7 written comments received before. Staff report was done last Wednesday, just for the audience's information. There's a certain amount, maybe equal written comments that were received afterwards, and those were available on the way in, and the planning commissioners have received those as well. But as far as responding to the general concerns of, because there was a general theme from the written comments, some of the concerns were about other access to the site besides the 2 streets, North Coleman and North Skinner, and the other streets that were mentioned were looked at as possibilities early on. Private property, and there's not a connection there that can be made to the site on East Van Dyke or East Mason Street. Also, there was some concern based upon the map that was sent out in the notification, I believe that the part of the parcel that's actually outside the city limits in the county connects over to North Willamette and North Harrison. We can't make any connection there if it's in the county, although that would be ideal, of course. But there won't be any connection or improvements there. Some of the other concerns were related to just increased traffic on sort of local slow streets, I'll call them. And so that, I don't have any general comments related to that. That's all covered in the code. So I don't have any response to that. There are some written comments that came in afterwards that aren't part of this staff report or response. Although I've had a little bit of time to see them, I don't have specific comments in response to those written testimony. I do have some notes from one of the written comments that was received today. That will be that's not part of the staff report. That will be during deliberations and after the public comment.
The people that are trying to watch the live stream are having a hard time hearing, so if you are speaking, please speak up. Don't worry about being too loud, speak up, because they're having a hard time.
So next is the applicant presentation.
You want to use the microphone or you want to use your?
I think I'll talk about it.
Okay.
Do we stand up a certain place or just?
Look, from your seat.
Okay. So my name is Eric Westover. I'm from Bruce Spiker, Christian Homes. And first of all, we just wanted to introduce ourselves. We've been building homes in Wayne County for at least 25 years now. Many homes here. We've tried to always be good neighbors in our subdivisions, and we build a quality product. I'm sure some of you are familiar with our construction. And, we've worked hard on this project. We met with the parks people, we met with Jeff several times. We've been working with the county. We just got approval. Today, they're current circumstances took them a little bit longer. We expect them to have that before. We do have that in there now. We still have that. So we really think that we've met all the applicable codes. And I think that Jeff's report stands on its own, and any questions at some point, we're happy to answer.
After the applicant presentation, we'll start public testimony. So the first person on our list is, I apologize if I mispronounced your name, Baron Weisler.
Marty Weisberg. Hi. This is Annalee Fuentes. We live on the corner of Diamond and Locust. And my concern, I wrote a letter, it's in your packet if you want to read along. I'm going to underscore those points quickly and then kind of rear up and have an overview. From what I did is I, out of the Jones response, the narrative response to the code in the Weicker plan, there are certain things I took issue. I know the staff has recommended approval of this, and that means to me that it must be technically legal, but I disagree with certain things. The code, it says that you need to encourage efficient use of full utilization of urban services and transportation options, and also to promote the general welfare through orderly and efficient urbanization. Also to provide for adequate transportation. So we feel strongly that having only 2 collector streets feed these 40 odd households is really inadequate, and particularly because one of the access, Coleman, is buried through in a neighborhood that people are going to have to go through a couple of stop signs. Almost all the traffic is going to come off of this main drag, off of Willamette, down Locust, and to Skinner. We're going to have 80 or 90 cars a day going through our little neighborhood. Or more. So I'm really concerned about that. It's going to drastically degrade our neighborhood, which is a very quiet neighborhood. This morning we went out and parked cars on those 2 slots, put up 2 cones 20 feet from each other so we could see how much room there was on a 20-foot wide road. We have 2 small vehicles. Anybody with a stroller or a dog would be dead on that road. And you know, it's just not enough access.
There's no sidewalks?
So it obviously doesn't promote general welfare. It's going to drastically change the neighborhood and very negatively. I think if this plan goes through in some form, it's going to require drastic speed limits because those roads are narrow. Well, I mean, let's say there's an antique fair and Locust is blocked off, so everybody's going to come down Skinner to get to their development. I mean, that's crazy. In the code, it says that the potential street right-of-way alignments need to serve future development. And I don't think that the alignment of the streets serves future development. Additional feeder streets are needed. And now the status of Macy and Van Dyne, I understand, were explored. I would request the Planning Commission request the developer to reinvestigate that. Because really, having 2 buried streets for a big subdivision like that go through our little neighborhood is going to just wreck it. I mean, you don't have to follow the technicalities of it to realize it's going to degrade the neighborhood.
We've lived here 20 years, and this is just a stunning development. Go ahead.
Also, I understand that the dogleg off of North Willamette on the north end of that parcel 2 is not within the urban growth boundary now, but I would recommend also that the council consider delaying this development until that can be used so that the traffic can be distributed equitably through the town. Part of what makes this town a little town is the way the streets are. The way you can walk and ride your bike and walk your dog. If we've got 80 or 90 cars going around on Locust on the north side of the park a day, that street doesn't even have sidewalks. People walk that park day and night. I mean, it's not orderly. So I think it would really degrade the park as a pedestrian facility, and that's like the centerpiece of the whole town. So I request that the planning commission delay this until a better solution can be come up with. And if it's done this way, it is going to degrade the quality of life of the people who are already here. We're here. We shouldn't have to live with the vision of a developer. We have our own town. And I think that we should take a stand to keep it the way we want it. So,
Your testimony? Kathy, you good?
So, and I have brought along this additional, my comments in writing here for the record, and I have extra copies. If people want to hand it out. I'm going to speak to those comments, but those are longer than this, because I want to keep my 5 minutes. So, I'm at 3273 East Locust Street in Vancouver. My name is Kathy Anderson, and written testimony has identified several objective and specific reasons that would lead a reasonable person to conclude that the application as presented does not meet all the criteria in Coburg's planning code. I'm not going to get into a lot of the technical parts of the planning code, because the other written testimony I've given has already pointed out the pieces of the code which I feel could be interpreted by a reasonable person to not be met. But I'm going to talk more generally now. So as such, the options are to deny the application or apply conditions that would bring it into compliance. Given the complexity of the issues, it would be both in the city and the applicant's best interest to keep the public hearing open, giving stakeholders time to digest feedback, brainstorm, and propose alternatives to mitigate the issues. Unlike the other 2 residential subdivisions that recently were completed in Coburg, which have direct or virtually direct access to arterial streets, in other words, busy through streets, this subdivision can only be accessed from very low-traffic, narrow residential streets in the historic core of Coburg. That brings a layer of complexity that was not encountered with the other 2 applications, and we're taking the time to deliberate the additional mitigating solutions that we have. This decision will impact the community decades or even centuries into the future. So it's appropriate to take time now to do the best we can with what we have to work with. The applicant's draft study points out that Skidder and East Locust are so narrowly parsed that when oncoming cars approach one another, one has to pull over to let the other one go by. This works okay for a few homes, but how can that be considered adequate to accommodate 39 or 40 new homes? So the applicant feel their customers will be satisfied with that arrangement. The planning commission specifically denied the application outright, and it would be up to the applicant to go back to the drawing board. But I think with some creative thinking, the applicant could improve their proposal to better fulfill the requirements. Here are just a few examples of actions that might mitigate the issues that have been raised by the public. Why not try a little harder to acquire the right of way for either West Van Dongen AC or both? Maybe the property's owner's answer was no at first, but how about make a smooth offer? The owners might start to imagine how nice it would be to use those funds for home improvement or build a fence. Or how about a land swap? Maybe they'd like a bigger garden or parking. If the street is out of the question, how about a path for pedestrians, bikes? More direct paths for the home buyers, kids to walk to school, and for residents to walk to downtown businesses. This is also one of the very rare circumstances where the city might conclude it's in the best interest of the community as a whole and over the long term to invoke eminent domain to acquire one or more rights of way at a reasonable market value. What about all the added traffic during the development phase from construction equipment and workers? Equipment recently got down the stop sign on Locust and Skinner due to the narrow sharp turn. The northernmost edge of the applicant's property, the portion outside the city limits, provides another alternative for additional vehicle access to the property via both North Willamette and North Harrison Streets. Would the applicant agree to, or can the city require the applicant to construct a private access driveway along the north boundary to carry some of the construction traffic or home or homeowner traffic or home buyer traffic to the subdivision? If so, it should include provision that the land transitions from the county to the city. Once, if the land transitions from the county to the city, the private lane could convert to a city street. This could mitigate some of the overall short and longer term traffic concerns. A lane here could be seen as another amenity from the home buyer's point of view. Besides that, anyone wishing to later develop the north part of the property will surely want a road there, and the city would surely require it at that point as well. People love Coburg. It's like stepping back in time. We have a lot to lose, and that's why citizens are so passionate about this. Developers often do the bare minimum to preserve profit margin, which is understandable. But imagine developing a neighborhood home buyers could get choked up about when you talk about it, just like they do with historic Coburg. That kind of customer response is a marketer's wildest dream. It doesn't have to be just a subdivision. In Coburg, it has the potential to be one of Weicker Home's crowning achievements. All you have to do is simulate what's already here. You know it's a success when people say, oh, it looks like it's always been here. So what does Coburg have that's so special? When it comes to streets and traffic, sorry, out of time?
Fine.
Okay. Well, I had a good point at the end, but please read the comments in the packet.
And I need to ask anybody that speaks after her to use the microphone because they cannot hear on the screen.
Next testimony is Michelle Shattuck.
I'm here just to listen.
Okay.
I did not sign up to speak tonight.
Okay. Dan Russ.
I didn't sign up to speak. I do have one thing I'd like to say since I have time. Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Well, this is called marriage. Quit moving. So what does Coburg have that's so special? When it comes to streets and traffic, the historical resident core of Coburg has a traditional street grid, short, narrow blocks with many intersections, making the web-like network the dispersed vehicle traffic, so you don't end up with as many busy streets. Residents love to walk and ride bikes in the streets. It's like living in a giant park with a whole lot of pathways. It is one of the things home buyers will have in mind when shopping for homes in Coburg, to fit in, extend the grid. The one thing that came to mind to me is the Willamette entrance would be the cure for this. And if we can take that over, I mean they've got an exception from the county already to build into the county land. Why not get another exception to build a road that's going to work for the people that live there? Fire trucks, ambulances, emergency things. I live right on the corner of Locust and Skinner, and I can already tell you just having one extra house there has increased our traffic a bit. Having 40 extra houses there is unreasonable. I don't see how anybody could stand on Skinner Street, look down the road and say, oh yeah, we can stretch this out an extra. Well, I just measured it, it's 12 feet, so 4 foot on either side. And not have that go into people's garages, fences, landscaping. How are you going to do that? It just doesn't make sense. I sat out there with the measuring tape today. There's no way you're going to do that without cutting into people's actual property that has been there for, in our case, our house is 100 and something years old. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to take a neighborhood that's full of people walking with their kids and their dogs and drive all this traffic right by the park. I mean, the first person that gets ran over there, it's going to be a big deal. And they're going to be looking. They're going to be, hey, who okayed this? Who said this was okay? I mean, there's little kids running across the street in the park all the time. I watch it. I sit on my front porch and watch it. And those little kids are going to get run over by the first yahoo that comes in, and buys a chunk of property because he's going to flip it. He doesn't care. He's doing 40 through there. We see it all the time. We live there. We see it all the time. And it's construction work mostly. But when that comes to pass, or if it comes to pass, that's something you're going to want to really consider, because that's a legacy you're leaving. Did our park get ruined? Is it just somewhere that sits there and gets mowed twice a week? Will people still be able to use it? Will Coburg still be Coburg? I mean, I don't want to. I'm a firm believer in property rights, but you're now affecting mine, and that's why I'm a little bit worked up about it. That's why I actually came to City Hall for once. But that's really all I had to say on the matter. It's a safety concern. There's no way you can expand that road wide enough and no off-street parking. There's at least 4 or 5 guys that park right to the edge of the road. What are they going to do with all their cars? Sell their cars to make room for somebody else's property?
But yeah, I don't know. That's just my 2 bits on it, and I'm done.
My comments aren't very technical or long, but I've lived in Covert for 20 years. I have my properties on Locust, on the corner, 13673 East Locust. And so I just put together a statement here. So Coburg is worthy of preservation in every way because Coburg has an incredibly unique aesthetic in how it looks and feels and moves depending on the season. There are dozens of families that live here, including mine, who cherish the small town feel, the safety we feel, and the activities we have cultivated over the years. Holidays, parades, and a good number of yearly events has created a strong sense of who we are as a community. We enjoy and care for our families, neighbors, and friends who live here. I have lived in Coburg for 20 years and hope to grow old here in Coburg. There have been many changes. Some are positive, adding to the enjoyment of living here, but now the idea of increased traffic around the Norma Pfeiffer Park and the impact the proposed development would make on our quaint town is very disconcerting. Please take your time in deciding the best for Coburg and everyone concerned now and in the future. Thank you.
Next up is Tyson Kidder.
I live. My name is Tyson Kidder. I live on North Skinner. However, if you look down Locust Street, our lot it dead ends right into our lot. So all day long, we see that passageway coming from North Skinner in that corner that'll have to be dealt with. Now, there are kids on it constantly. And like the other folks have said, with increased traffic, there could be somebody blowing through there. Well, everyone that lives there right now with all those kids, we know the kids are there. Like, we care about these kids. We see all of the older folks that stroll around that park right there. And, you know, if there is going to be some sort of access on Skinner, I would suggest that provide these folks in the subdivision the same thing that we have. We have pedestrian access to downtown, like all of Main Street and the park. They'll retain it the way it should be. I talked to the fire department the other day when I was doing some stuff. I talked to the chief. Hey, you know, is there? I mean, I know they're separate from the city. I understand that, and there may be something that prohibits this from the city code. He's like, there's no problem with one access in this subdivision. It doesn't matter to us. But that brings up that other point of the north access to the south too. Like, I'm imagining that there's going to be a lot more kids in this area that move into development like this. And that north access, I mean, all those kids going to school, it makes tons more sense to go north. And it dumps them out right by the fire station. So, I mean, honestly, like, that's the only, in my opinion, that seems like the only place that really makes sense. I mean, why divert all these people to these established neighborhoods and affecting these people, like the other folks who said, have been there for a very long time. And there's a reason that we all live where we do, because it's quiet, because of the character of the neighborhood, because of the park, because we can walk everywhere and we don't have to worry about, you know, a million cars. When I was like 30 some years ago, my family's lived within 10 miles of this for 4 generations. 30 years ago, when I was a kid in Ferry Street Bridge area, I mean, I was riding dirt bikes through the neighborhood. I mean, that's what I want. I want something like that. That's why we live here, is not because we were riding dirt bikes in the neighborhood, but because it's you know, it's more of a rural community. And so if we can retain at least the character of the park and the way that people are using it now, without crowding people in these streets, that it'll create an unusable avenue down North Skinner. I mean, just the improvement around that corner, that's one thing, along that's the park, but folks aren't gonna just be on there, they're gonna go all the way down North Skinner. And like folks are saying, you have to pull over for somebody to get past you now. I mean, it's gonna be deadlocked, be awful. So anyway, all these considerations make sense to me. I just came to support my fellow neighbors, and thanks for your time. All right.
Elizabeth. Is that on? Oh, it's been on. Elizabeth Kidder. I also live at the corner of North Skinner and East Locust, and my greatest concern is safety. As a mom, I see the kids coming and going. I see the soccer practice of kindergartners out in that park, and my greatest concern is for the safety of the residents who use the park and the kids that play in that park, and the lives that could potentially be impacted if this were to go through the East Locust thoroughfare. That's the one thing that we can't replace is the life of a child or a person that is enjoying our town as it's meant to be enjoyed. So I just wanted to voice the safety concern, and thank you for your time.
So, is everybody in here that was signed up to speak, gotten a chance to speak? No. Okay, so my list kind of changed as we brought more people in. I have 5 people out there that need to come in to speak. Sure. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And it is being streamed live, and they have it out there. It's a little hard to hear, but it's our recording.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Please hear your people. You're not ready to hear it? Yes, it will be on. We do have comments.
Hello. Hi, my name is Jeannie Parker. My husband's Scott outside, but we live at 91180 North Home. We're one house away from the field and then be developed. We bought our house in May 2017 and moved up to Eugene from Saugus, California, so we're not local like our neighbors are. We wanted to be closer to family, to give our son more open space to grow up in, to enjoy the parks, and then of course just got my 2-hour commute to work. So, our house has actually gone up in value according to Zillow since we moved in, and we would like that to continue. I think that's amazing, not like LA prices where they go up way more, but still something is increasing. We're looking forward to having new best friends for our son to play with, having new neighbors and more people for us to go bike with. And then both my husband and I grew up in really amazing subdivisions down in Saugus and Simi Valley. So we support a healthy new supply of homes for our area. And there's a shortage of housing, and we definitely want to see something amazing come into our neighborhood. So we might have that a different perspective than a lot of people that already live here. But one thing we can't support is the poorly planned street and traffic plan. So I just wanted to touch on the item in the Wells testimony opposed to the proposal. The proposed street layout does not comply with street connectivity standards. So we can't support 2 egress roads on Skinner and Pullman that are substandard. Everyone has talked about it. So you have to have one car pull over to get the other car to come out right now. It's a conflict of with the street parking. There's not enough parking for anyone to even if you have one car parked, another car has to completely go around them. You can't have two cars packed in at the same time. So we think there should be additional connecting streets on Van Dunn, Macy, or Willamette and Harrison, or an additional northern connected egress road in the area that's not currently part of the boundary. We probably agree with most of the people that a northern road through the school, like coming down Willamette, would probably be the best option. And then, having that property on Macy and Van Dunn would create additional roads and walking areas. So I also think a traffic study should be done on the impact of cars on Pearl and Coleman, because the increase in cars during rush hour for people leaving to work needs to be considered. I always have to wait like 5-10 minutes just to turn left onto Pearl to get out to the freeway. And that's just because of all the traffic on Pearl with all the gravel trucks that are using it as their main road. So we need to figure out if that's if everyone's going down Coleman or down Skinner, they're gonna have that problem turning on Pearl. Whereas if they add either a northern road or the Willamette or the Van Dunn Macy might help alleviate that a little bit. So the city must develop a street network that evenly distributes the traffic throughout the community, lessening traffic impacts on residential streets, and identifying a system of arterials for moving people, goods, and services safely and efficiently. So it's one of the policies, I guess, in there. And then as the plan is currently drafted, we have to request the city deny the proposal and send it back to developers to revise it to include proper traffic and flow to account for the future of the city of Coburg. That's it.
My name is Claire Smith. I live on Thomas Street in Coburg, and I'm here on behalf of the Park and Tree Committee. We are concerned with the recreational space set aside for this development. The staff report on page 25, item 19A states, within or adjacent to a subdivision of land into 10 or more lots, a parcel of land not less than 6% of the gross area of the subdivision shall be set aside and dedicated to the public by the subdivider. The parcel shall be approved by the Planning Commission as a suitable and adaptable for park and recreation use. In the event no such area is suitable for park and rec purposes, or for a subdivision of land into less than 10 lots, the subdivider shall, in lieu of setting aside land, pay into public land acquisition fund a sum of money equal to 1% of the gross sale price of each lot in the subdivision, which sum of money shall be paid at the time each lot is developed or sold, whichever occurs first. The drainage studies states on page 1, under site characteristics, the site is an open field and consists of about 10.9 acres. Finding by planning is that 41,345 square feet exceeds the criteria for open space and that the standards have been met. This does not meet the criteria for recreational use. 6% of 471,754 square feet is about 28,305 square feet that should be recreational. There appears to be only 12,879 square feet of useful space. Parcels C and B are clearly labeled as bioswale. Stormwater space is a completely separate requirement and should not be considered recreational. Item 19, page 25, clearly states the parcel shall be approved by Planning Commission as being suitable and adaptable for recreational use. Staff has done their job. Fortunately, we have a Planning Commission to advocate for the citizens of the community, as stated on page 25, item 19A. We look forward to your discussion on either how to make a bioswale usable for recreation or a lot more usable space. Land acquisition funds are also an option, but we would prefer the recreational space. Thank you.
I can go to one thing.
Was it Lana Meston?
My name is Lana Meston. As a member of the Coburg Parks and Tree Committee, I have concerns about 3 of the separate parcels designated as open space. Tracks A, B, and C appear to be associated with drainage systems and detention pond outflow to Muddy Creek along the north property line. These tracks will not provide an opportunity to create usable open space for families in this community, as provided by the Parks and Open Space Master Plan. The quality of usable parks and open space design is equally important. Thank you, and I yield the minute.
Next is Dale Pack.
Hi, I'm Dale Cast. I live at 32687 East Locust Street. I'm also the owner of Cast Construction. I've built, I think, 15 houses here in town. And I want to thank Ann and Jeff and Sammy back there. They're awesome around here to work with. There's 6 volunteers sitting up here on the Planning Commission. Thank you so much for your time. You do a lot of great things for Coburg. I'm going to reference back to 4 years ago. I came into this office and met with the city planner back then. And I sat here with this piece of paper with her, and we went over all the vacant lots in Coburg and the vacant land in Coburg. And she helped me troubleshoot which ones are buildable and which ones are not buildable. And I talked to her about this Whiteford subdivision, this piece of land here, and asked her who the name of owned it, that I'd like to pursue possibly purchasing it. And she gave me the name of it and stuff. And she says, but Dale, it won't do you any good. That piece of land is landlocked. It's undevelopable. So what happened in the last 4 years when I talked to the city about purchasing that piece of land, and now all of a sudden that piece of land is available to build on, where 4 years ago it was landlocked. So I'm not getting the correct information from the city of Coburg, or there's been a code change in the last 4 years that I'm not aware of. So that is my major issue right there. Is I brought this up 4 years ago, and 4 years later, now all of a sudden we're sitting here with a Whiteford subdivision. We're talking about the same thing that I already talked to the city planner about 4 years ago. So I'm kind of frustrated with that. Not that I could have ever got the piece of land. I don't have any idea if I had connections with the assets to purchase it at that time. But at least at that time, I talked to a city planner. It's undevelopable. It's landlocked. Can't build on it. So I don't even know why we're having this discussion today about being able to build on it. So, okay, the next question, the next thing I want to bring up is the livability of Coburg. I have had 2 houses on East Locust Street, and I had numerous people as I'm sitting on the front porch just pull up and say, wow, this East Locust Street, this is what Coburg is all about. People walking up and down the street, enjoying the parks, enjoying the little city of Coburg. It's just a great place to live. It's a great street right on the head of the park. Today I was sitting there on a sunny day, a young mother from down here in the Hatfield subdivision. She's got a new baby. She's pushing her stroller. She's walking 2 dogs. There's a car coming from one direction and a car coming from the other direction. And everybody had a pause and maneuver, you know, with this lady walking down the street. I'm going, what is this going to be like if they somehow approve this with all these young families walking around the park with their strollers and their dogs and stuff? So the livability of Coburg is going to really change if somehow you approve this, which I don't see how you could, because 4 years ago you said it was undevelopable. So I don't know what's happened again in these last 4 years. And I didn't even talk in the microphone. I rattled so much. I get worked up sometimes. Again, I love Coburg. I really appreciate you guys volunteering your time. You're gonna have to take a real serious look at this. My name's attached to a couple letters here. I'm not gonna talk about code issues, but those letters are addressed from some other planners that are professional planners that have addressed the concerns on this. We got the tree committee addressing concerns. But again, my biggest concern is, how did this get approved 4 years later that we're even discussing it? So thank you very much for your time. I love Coburg. I think this is a great place to live.
Ryan Bale.
you gonna speak? Okay, okay, that's fine. Okay. So neither one of them.
My name is Andrew Hughes. I just recently bought a home at 91173 North Skinner Street. One of the big reasons that I decided to purchase the home that I did is because of how quiet Coburg is, how quiet that dead end on North Skinner is. Being a younger guy, I also planned on having children in the home and being able to anticipate them to walk down to the park, being able to safely walk down there. With the subdivision going in, it completely changes everything across the board. It completely changes the look of Coburg. It completely changes that side of the town. It also completely changes people's lifestyles and why they want to be part of Coburg. And so I'm just really here to support my neighbors as well, support this community. So thank you.
Now, there's 4 written testimonies that came in after the packets that need to go onto the record. So if you just would read maybe who they're from, just put it on the record. And then anybody else join us on the phone? Teresa? So Teresa Bishop is going to testify on the phone. Apparently not that. Teresa, are you on the phone? Paul and Ann, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. She's pretty tough, she's gonna call me. Yeah, that's why I got her last. So we tried.
So all the commissioners have 4 letters from Claire Smith. The commissioners have the 4 letters, one from Claire Smith, one from Mr. Hogan. The other one from Kathy Gibson, which she testified already. The next one is Ann Heath. And I believe we also have the that's the thing from Alan and Peggy Wells. So that's what I have. Is that consistent with what you have?
Yes, there was also, yeah, so email correspondence with Nancy, or with Councilor McConnell and the mayor, with Kathy Eaglebrook thing.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, we have that. Everyone has seen it? Good. When we concluded public testimony, staff can provide a response to the testimony.
Code. I did take a few general notes on some of the recurring themes and tried to catch everything that was mentioned. I'll just start with top of my list. Related to the north access that's been mentioned, which specifically would be North Willamette Street and North Harrison extending into, that's outside the city limits. We can't control anything outside the city limits at this ever. They can't build anything outside the city limits that has any road that has any access to an urban use. So anything inside the city is an urban use. So there's not a way for them to do anything like that. As far as when that might be able to be taken into the urban growth boundary, that's not something that is enforceable by our zoning code at all. That is something that the city may expand when they have the permission to do it and right and responsibility to do it by the state. Oregon. And that is something based upon our population growth forecast. And the next time we're going to be able to review that is next year. And so, yes, it could expand someday, and yes, it could include that area, but that is not something that is enforceable on a zoning code, especially for requirements for a subdivision. But it could materialize someday. That's just what I'm trying to say. Related to Van Dyne and Macy, there's private property in between those streets and the subject property that we can't force them to sell. There's not a technical and code related reason to require them to do that. So although that was explored, there's not a requirement for them to do that. Related to the general zoning of this property in general, it has been zoned traditional residential and traditional medium residential for part of it for at least 15 to 20 years. So it's been, I guess, say eligible to develop in this way for a very, very long time. And so that's sort of a reminder that City Council made this decision years and years and years ago to make this possible. The street standards and sort of safety considerations related to locusts are obviously a very valid concern. It is the opinion of many loud voices at many city council meetings to not have sidewalks in the city. And we're hearing the exact opposite from a lot of people here. So that would be interesting. I'd like you guys to speak up if you have that opinion, because there's a very loud, maybe minority that is speaking to never have sidewalks in Coburg ever. But street standards are something that can change with the right kind of process. I'm not saying they will, that's just something that can. But in the requirements for zoning, in our zoning code related to a subdivision, that's not something that can be enforced in this situation. Related to park space, parks and open space that was brought up, the member of the committee brought up that the staff report reflects that the set aside space is more than the required minimum. That's true. There is a pretty subjective point in there related to, I think it says, suitable and adaptable for park and recreation use. Those are very broad terms. And so since they're very broad terms, that's why it's been met. The parcels in question, I think they're B and C, the ones that are sort of linear on the north end, are at least partly going to be used for some stormwater management considerations. It doesn't mean that's the entirety of their use. There still could be some sort of amenity in those couple of lots. But for sure, the other two lots, A and D, that are part of the open space are bigger and more adaptable. Addressing one of the last comments related to why this is being developed now and not 4 years ago, and it being landlocked. That's something I heard when I first got here too. I think that was an opinion that was incorrect. And I'm sorry about that, that was an opinion that was incorrect. It's possible that further investigation by a traffic engineer or whatever at that time would have resulted in a similar outcome to now, but that's neither here nor there at that time. But that landlocked would mean that it wasn't developable at all. There's no, at least in my opinion, there's no access to it at all. That exists for other lots around the city, but much smaller though. And our engineer, our contract engineer reviewed the traffic impact analysis that was prepared for the site and agreed with the findings, save for the one sight line condition and comment I made earlier. So that is my response to some of the items that were brought up. There is, I'll go into it now since this is part of the testimony. One of the written pieces of testimony is from Teresa Bishop, and she brought up 4 main points related to why this should not be approved. And I'm going to go through what I think satisfies those 4 points. They're on the front of the, for you commissioners, the first page. Number one, the land is in the subdivision, not a legal lot. That's been satisfied with the approval that I just got today. I know it sounds convenient, but that's just when they finished it. Today from Lane County, they have partitioned that lot at the city limit line. The subdivision is not consistent with the covered comprehensive plan. One important point is there, the zoning code and other ordinances further define the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is not the standard and code that you have to adhere to. So policies and goals of the comprehensive plan aren't code requirements. They are things that you build your code from. And so the zoning code defines those various policies and goals, and that's what any application addresses. Things like open space requirements. So she brought up the Parks and Open Space Master Plan having different kinds of connections and something like that. Those are goals. Zoning ordinances enforce those goals in a more detailed way. And so they meet those requirements according to the zoning code. There were some question about the street standards and not being able to meet those standards, especially on North Skinner. First of all, for some reference, the right-of-way, which doesn't mean the paved area, the right-of-way in North Skinner from the intersection at Locust to where it takes the corner at Van Dyne is 30 feet wide. It's very narrow compared to a lot of streets in Coburg. The one on North Coleman is 50 feet wide. So that's wider than our minimum that's required now, just for some reference. So there was some question about how we could approve this based upon our current standards. And the current standards we have in our code are 45-foot minimum right-of-way with 20 foot of paving, blah, blah, blah. There's all kinds of different details that are in there. Those are for newly created streets, not for existing streets. There are offsite improvements details that are required as part of this subdivision, but it's generally depends on the location. Let's see here. And with offsite improvements in excess of what is necessary aren't enforceable because that would be a takings situation where there's the applicant cannot be required to do more than what is necessary. Let's see here. One of the issues was related to the condition related to the improvements of those two streets, the offsite streets, and it was vague it was somewhat purposely vague because those are very detailed conversations that engineer and public works has after the fact to actually construct the streets. I have some language that I'm willing to put forth as a more specific condition to satisfy that if that's the case, and I can propose to amend that condition. So if you'll, commissioners, if you take a look at condition number 4, which is, let me find my page here. Page 4. It currently reads, as part of the public improvements process, the applicant shall improve the offsite roadway access points to a minimum of 2 vehicle access lanes, or at least to fire access lane standards and requirements. Improvements shall include but not be limited to pavement widening, pavement on-street parking restrictions. What does that mean? What do you mean? What part?
Pavement widening, pavement on-street parking restrictions.
I think there's a missing comma or something like that. There's pavement widening would be one part of it, and pavement, and I think maybe pavement's in there twice on accident, and on-street parking restrictions, because that's such a narrow right of way there through Skinner.
And you're considering on-street parking
In the right of way, yeah. That's all. And some right of ways are much larger, especially if you see in the new subdivisions, there's actually cut out paved parking, which will be part of the new subdivision if there's one. But in older neighborhoods, there's no real cutout of parking. It's just sort of kind of off the road, as much as you can fit. Some people have gravel, some people have grass all the way up. It's a little bit different all around town. But technically, a lot of the right-of-ways are 60 feet around town, FYI. So that condition is a little vague on the exact clear and concise requirements. So I was proposing to amend that in a way that includes a paving width of 16 feet on North Skinner Street from the subject property to and through the intersection at East Locust Street, and North Coleman Street from the subject property to and through the intersection at Mill Street. And that only means they need to meet that. North Coleman Street most likely meets that all the way through right now. There might be a little bit on the north end that is not 16 feet wide, but that's all that would. So they're held to the same exact standard. That's what I'm proposing to change that condition 4 to. And there's some question about connectivity between the east and west, but providing there is no connectivity possible east and west in that subdivision because east of it is a creek and another subdivision and industrial lands, and west of it is another subdivision. That was the question in the particular comment from Bishop Consulting. Also, related to my first comment about the north access, should that materialize with the city taking that urban growth boundary, potentially someday, and then annexing, that would eventually provide the east and west connection to North Willamette and North Harrison. That is the end of my comments related to public testimony.
So applicant rebuttal.
We'll use the microphone. Yeah. I'm holding this like crazy.
Well, thank you. I can hear from all the public testimony. There's a lot of people who are unhappy with the traffic, and you know, we're unhappy with Skinner Street too. We wish that it was 50 foot wide and we had sidewalks and no potholes, but that's not the condition of the city streets there. Some people were talking about widening Skinner Road, and then some people were talking about how they wouldn't want to give up any of their property to do that. So I'm not sure that Skinner could be widened, but that would be a matter for the city of Coburg to do or take up should they want to. We tried to get that northern access that so many people have talked about. The county told us absolutely no way, not going to happen as long as that's outside of the city limits. So we actually wanted to do that and tried to do that, just so everyone's aware. We also looked at Macy Street. Property owners are not interested in giving up that piece of property. Again, that's not to point any fingers, but at some point that might have been kept by the city at one time. I believe they could have had it, but it was sold. That would have been a good piece to keep for connectivity, but we're unable to acquire that. So that's all I can tell you on the streets. On track B and C, we tried to make those wide enough that we could have, we've got a very small storm drainage area there. We tried to make them wide enough so that walking paths could be installed along the road if need be or wanted to be for recreation use. I can see residents of our subdivision enjoying being able to walk along there and abutting the fields there as well. So we tried to come up with creative ideas on how to have open space that is usable.
I think, the main thing is the traffic and every time we do a subdivision, it's the biggest concern. People are always worried about the traffic. And 40 houses sounds like a lot. And you have a traffic study, but it isn't that much traffic. It's not like there's 90 cars going all down there at one time. So it's always the biggest concern, and we try to show that it's not going to be horrible. And we're trying to make connections and make it better. But those are our only two choices. We don't have any other connections. This is land that was designated to be developed. We're trying to meet all the codes. The number of lots that we have on there is what is required of us. It's not like we can say we want to take off 15 lots and have less traffic. We can't take one lot off and meet your code. So everything on there is in order to meet the code. I don't know if you have any other questions for me.
We have a whole.
Okay.
So if you're done with your rebuttal, we have some planning commissioners can ask questions to staff. Yeah.
Any more public comment I asked? Okay.
46 single-family dwelling lots, yes. It started out lower, and then as we were looking at the requirements to meet the minimum, they needed to increase their lots to the minimum.
So, where are the other ones shown?
They're on.
This was created.
In your packets, they're 46.
I think this is the only one that shows the
Only that's the only map. I don't know what other map there is. There's one in the traffic study. Oh, and the traffic study. The traffic study also has an amendment to it, which is in that very next page that speaks to the additional 7 lots. And really, that's about analyzing the intersections and the additional trips that we created by the 7 lots.
And I was looking at the page of the actual date that she got numbers for. And she got May 13th through the 19th. And that was when, there's a lockdown and schools weren't going. And so I couldn't find that was where it was accommodated for the difference in the numbers from May when there's no school and everybody's home because it's so locked for COVID-19 school. And what happens is they were actually going to work and going to school. So that's my only concern with this traffic report. Was there like a percentage that was accountable for that increase when people will go back to work? In the next year or so? I mean, it's now. I work from home and by the Kenzie, and traffic has to go down because of it. So I was curious, is there like a multiplier that was added to it to accommodate the difference?
Well, in the traffic study section, page 8, section 4.2, there's a section about volume adjustment. And then based upon the engineer, the traffic, the counts related to the lots that are on those streets, traffic counts will return to be valid for the analysis. And those things get projected in the future because mostly there aren't a lot of existing trips on those streets right now. But it counts even in a slow time.
basing it on what the current count was and then project it forward, given that base data?
So if your baseline is higher, then the projection is going to be higher.
Well, the projections for the future box aren't going to have anything to do with the trip manual for the international trip duration. The current count is just right now. Right. Which is so minimal that there wasn't enough variation that the engineer saw to make any sort of adjustment. And our engineer agrees with the findings. Our engineer agrees with the findings.
I don't understand the purpose of a traffic impact analysis then. Shouldn't the current traffic be the baseline for what you project even with the 46 new homes?
Sorry, it's not completely okay. This particular one has so little current traffic because of the amount of loss. No matter what time. Yeah, no matter what time of the, no matter what we're going through, I should say. So the traffic impact analysis takes a look at intersections that can be impacted by new traffic on top of the existing.
Yeah, I get the gist of it. But, I mean, I thought it was a great point. I didn't even think of that. So traffic is down. I mean, it's like nobody's going anywhere.
But the amount of trips, even if they were doubled, which would not be any sort of multiplier that would really apply, is so minimal still. Compared to the, yeah.
One thing, can you even use Skinner during an event? I noticed during I think it was Golden Years, they closed down the focus. And so that whole access would stop during events.
Yeah. You can't plan for events, plan for.
It was a point made by one of the public testimony.
That's a good point.
I thought it was.
But every part of program does that for events.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. But you're right. If these focus disruptors block any of the streets, it does focus any trips onto the street. Exactly.
More questions for staff?
Keep going.
The transportation system plan that recently newly adopted that we presented to the public and basically at an open house several years ago for the citizens to come over to do. What did it show for North Skinner and North Palmer?
It shows them going through, actually, it's one of the, things, Bishop and Smoking showed one of their, yeah, it's actually the back page. It showed them extending straight through. In fact, future alleys potentially as well. With a grid pattern, but this was why this is such a strange document, because this was what we were going to expand. We didn't. That's why this is. But that wouldn't change the plan to extend the street through. It's the only way to develop that particular lot and then one of them as well.
So I think what you said, I'm sure, it showed those streets being extended.
Yes, absolutely.
What about Van Dyne? Did it show those being tied together with,
No. There's no connection in there. A lot of these maps show goals as well, like walking paths and things like that. So there's some future potential walking paths and things connections that those materialize as possible.
what was presented
likely the older transportation system plan from 1999 also has the exact same layout.
My other question was the, conditions here about the, as part of the public improvement process, the applicant shall improve off-site roadway access points for minimum two vehicle access lanes. What does that include? What streets does that include?
My proposal was to change that a little bit, like the one I was talking about. It includes both Skinner and Coleman.
But not Locust?
No,
Why?
because Skinner is in a condition that doesn't allow any traffic to into a traffic jam. That was identified by our public works director and our engineer. That was identified by our public works director and our engineer.
That North Skinner could not be widened to accommodate.
No, that it needed to be. Yes.
But what about Locust?
Locust was never a part of the conversation because it was not in the condition that Skinner. Skinner only, they said 12 feet wide, I measured less than that. Certain spots.
So Locust could handle two-way traffic?
That's my understanding from our public works engineer. Also, it's a piece of right away. Unrelated to this, there is a paving project that will be happening. We got federal funding for it. It's traveled out in 2 years. It will cover all of our collector streets in the city. That's not part of this. That's just sort of information that will be preserved. It won't be built out because we don't want it to be built out.
I'm concerned about the parks and open spaces. Seems like it doesn't seem very useful. It just is kind of a nod to what we require rather than something that actually park.
Right. That's a valid concern. That's one of the things that I talked about and also addressed. They don't have to be parks, first of all. They don't have to be big enough for parks. Parks and open space. Open space is a really broad and general term sometimes. Usable is also very general as well. The applicant brought up the fact that the two kind of narrow parcels that are part of the four that are proposed to be here at the north end. Yes, there could be drainage part of that, but there are also walking paths, and that is a use of things. We have a park like that in our west side of our town, a walking path. And the other two parcels are, the one on the east end is much wider, but it's wide enough to have more than just a walking path. And the one on the west end is basically a blank slate.
Another question. So when Dan done, is when done, last year had been, so we couldn't get, we couldn't get a, substation, we couldn't get that, right, the road to get through, to be done, that's right.
Right, that was vacated by the city years and years and years ago.
Okay.
So,
And that easement for the existing wastewater, for the,
is it what, sorry?
the existing wastewater that's through there?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was an unfortunate decision by the city years ago to
Yeah.
vacate that. No. But it's private property, they absolutely love not having anybody go by there. They're definitely not interested. I've talked to them about that many times.
Did you get a letter that referenced power lines and access for,
Yeah.
power to come through? Is that something that we need?
I can speak to that.
The one in the North Coleman area right there.
Yes, we did receive a letter, and also I spoke to the gentleman on the phone. Sorry, I can't remember his name.
I think tomorrow.
About City Power not being able to access the power line. We contacted City Power, and the issue is, whenever you're doing a subdivision, you have to get concurrency from the utility companies. So the utility companies are gonna come in and design how they want things designed, so they can access their lines and serve the neighbors. So City Power is gonna be part of that conversation on how best to construct that. They will get paid.
And that lines up with one of the conditions and referenced several times, the private engineering of the public improvement process. The utilities, the private utilities are part of that public improvement process. Because it makes sense to include at that time, they're all built in at the same time. You know, our public works director and our engineers will make sure that there's a electrical plan and that sort of thing all at the same time. The ground's only one. That is a valid concern, though. I'm glad that, and that's something that, like, they have been using just the field, you know, just that they could for 30 years more to go look at the power line. And now that there's going to have to be a more specific detailed plan on how to access that. So traffic calming measures, the one spot I can see a traffic calming idea, and that's not part of the requirement, we don't have any code for that, is at where the subdivision meets the existing street there, Skinner, kind of at the area where Van Dyne. It's not exactly straight lined up, and it would be sort of a chicane kind of thing, and there's a way you can slow people down so they don't just race through that. And that could be part of the process, but yes, that will be based upon what's proposed as they're going to pay it to 20 feet in subdivision, and they're going to have to match it up with existing streets, North Skinner and Van Dyne, and so that's going to be a potentially wide area of paving and traffic calming treatment could be really useful. But other places, no, that's completely off. Farther than that, no.
This project improvement process,
Yeah.
is that open to the public?
No.
So there's no public input here.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have design standards that are adopted by the public, I guess. That was already done. It's like, you do it, and you make your standard once, and you don't do it. That's the.
But you do state right in there that you do modifications during that process. Well, it says right here, the design of public streets and city utilities should be reviewed separately in the public improvement review process and is subject to modifications as determined through that process. So, what modifications are you talking about?
Oh, that really simply means once you start defining the details, and it doesn't exactly line up for every single parking space as laid out, every single vertical edge corner, if something has to be totally just to actually lay it out physically, whether it has to do with our stormwater, our wastewater, any sort of infrastructure, those are sort of my the specific width standards, layouts, and off-site sort of conditions of approval, those don't change. Everything else changes.
I saw in, I guess there was this, thing that came in today from Bishop Consulting. Came to the concern regarding the, on the spot, I guess, they're talking about a conflict of it being some of these lots having split up.
Yeah, it's strange, and the lots that are referenced aren't, I don't know where the numbers came from, that's kind of this point, I guess. In our zoning, our official zoning map adopted, there is a sort of weird long rectangular shape in the middle of this lot, sort of like middle left, middle west, a lot that is medium residential. It's one of those things that was probably done 15, 20 years ago by a computer program, and we had to assign a certain percentage of medium residential somewhere in the city, and you assign the computer program and say, put it somewhere here, and it just puts it there. And it became official. So as part of this process, we had to average that out and figure out how much of the space of this lot was actually medium residential, as opposed to the majority of it, which is traditional residential. And so it came up to, gosh, it was only 8% of it, I think. And so it did affect it. In fact, it added probably 5 lots. The whole thing. Because medium residential is about twice as much density as, a little more than twice as much actually, than density as traditional. And to give you some size comparison, that development was probably about an acre larger than this. I think it was 11.7 or 8 or something like that. An idea of size and density. This is 10.8. Yeah. Yeah, well, there was a very specific ordinance that allowed for a much higher density on that lot, so that's why 66 homes were out there. Actually, up to 80 homes. Yeah, yeah. We could have made the lots a lot smaller in places. We didn't. But I mean, that's just market.
Well, we don't know exactly what we're doing. The city of Coburg has very specific design. Garage sits and the front walls. None of our traditional plans are going to be fit. We're going to have to look at architects to design new plans for these spots. And I would imagine that we would be 1,800 square feet, 2,500 square foot home. And that would be our project there. Nobody made it, we don't have that number set. We're not like Hayden Homes kind of has like, 5 miles for the building stuff. We don't do that. We're much more, somebody comes to us, what they want built. We won't have that same stamp out.
It's still compliance.
Just to make sure that. Unlike the.
Yeah, why is it so vague at this stage? Maybe this is a question for you, Jeff, and I know there's a lot of specificity around this, but, you know, if we're comparing Casey, there was already designs for the homes, there was a park, that was a part of the design, so the whole parks and trees and usable space was all satisfied and everything.
Definitely help answer that. One has to do with the fact that it required a master plan, so they were required to come to city council for approval. It's approval by ordinance. And the other is just, they, because of early meetings, decided to bring that as sort of added. They didn't have to. So they brought designs, and they also, you know, as the applicant stated, they also had their sort of cookie cutter design, right? You know,
I understand that
so
part.
that was part of it.
Yeah, I guess I'm, you know, since the concern that I heard that was like the most, I don't know, directed towards the code, per se, was the percentage of park space or whatever the term was.
Yeah, parking.
Yeah, exactly. And you're saying usable is very vague on purpose, right? So that's honestly for me to either disagree with or agree with on whether or not the park, the track B and C are usable, right? So now it's up. You see, now it's up for debate on my opinion or our opinion on is it usable or not. So it would have helped or would help actually see where is this path going to be or where is this park going to be. And I know you can't require that, but now it's kind of vague. It's like, I don't know, I don't see it as useful, which means it doesn't meet my thoughts of percentages of open space.
What I can say is, I can estimate the, because I don't have exact details. Is it about 35 feet wide, the two tracks? If I had to guess.
Yes, sir.
And so in you worked out some of the standards, I think, probably for the stormwater retention and in that area. How much of that 35 feet is that going to take up? So you can kind of get an idea of how much is left, right?
It shows it on sheet 2.
Sheet 2?
Sheet 2 shows you.
Is it like 8 feet wide or?
You'll see a contour of these lists.
So where would the path be?
On the side of it, along the road.
You can also put it at the north end.
Yeah.
And for some sort of future growth context, should the city be able to expand there, that would make a lot of sense to expand that open space area right in that exact same spot as well. So I can imagine subdivision someday butting up against that improves and widens at least in those spots that would make a whole lot of sense. Too much.
I mean, are we talking to staff?
Yeah, I think what's explaining, if possible, if there's a way we can explain like what you're talking about over there. So we all know.
We're just looking at the.
Oh, it's showing where it is and then the width of it. Okay, that's good. Just want to know. So yeah, still sort of staff questions and, you know, I don't know what to do next.
Staff can raise if we close it.
Well, not yet. Yeah.
Yes, we pretty much were asking all the questions.
Yeah. So
I don't have any questions.
So as far as process goes, there's a strict stuff there that there's some things to consider. Approve as amended, because I've already did an amendment to condition 4. We're gonna add further conditions. Those have to be based on code and criteria, approval criteria. You can deny, you can come up with reasons to deny based on approval criteria. Also, you can, if there's more, you need to extend a public hearing. There's a lot of options.
So first we have to close the public hearing.
Not yet.
Oh, no, sorry, no,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, just clarification, yeah. The public approval process, North Skinner, North Pole are going to be widened to 2 lanes.
North Coleman quite probably is already, I don't know the exact pavement width on the entire length. It most likely already is, so it's quite the entire area. Right, so the point, North Skinner will have more improvements on it than North Coleman most likely. But the
But
requirement.
North Skinner will be widened to 2 vehicles.
The 16 feet, paving width of 16 feet on North Skinner, this is my recommendation. And this is what our engineer and public fire chief agreed on. Paving width of 16 feet on North Skinner Street from the property to and through the intersection at Lower Street. So that's all the same right there. And then on North Coleman Street, from the subject property to the intersection. There's a longer section, but it's probably not much pavement. But that is a fact. And so the detailed drawing is in the heavy process.
Then the off-street parking, you're going to restrict.
That's where the detailed drawing of that section of our Skinner specifically is only 30 feet right away. I can see there being restricted parking. It might be that the paving is better designed towards one side of the right of way, that way we can continue with some parking. Depending on how it lays out. That's why the 16 feet leaves room.
Because as far as stormwater, that hasn't probably been looked at.
Not for those streets, only for the subject property. That's all. Well, maybe not the exact detail, but.
And the property owners that are on these 2 streets, they've been notified that this might occur.
Well, through notification is,
And the fact that the street will be restricting the parking.
it's public right of way, but it's being from,
Well, I understand that, but when people are using, currently using that area for parking, and then you come in and say you're going to stop it, well, I don't want to be around.
Significant.
I don't think North Coleman, it's 50 feet wide.
Well, I think that's
Wider than
open for discussion. I know that the right of way, but I'm not so sure. Pavement is there, I'm not sure. There's a few things that, it's just not quite as wide as 50 feet.
Well, I mean, technically, right, people might not understand it, but North Skinner is the section which literally touches state properties. One of which that is the area that I see if I have to get creative with the design where it's first, the priority would be wide enough pavement. And then the second priority would make sure that there's runoff management, somewhat runoff management, with the idea of signing that around the existing right-of-way park. Since it's such a small right-of-way, we can just say, plop our new street standards on there. With Pullman, we can.
Jeff, you even mentioned that earlier when we were all talking about roads and access and getting more access to it, that really can't come around until we have another UGB conversation, which is, you said, how soon?
Next time we'll get any numbers on that. And so the process there would be, we get a favorable, I'll call it favorable, which is means we're able to expand, favorable forecast for our population growth. And if we do, then city council has made the decision to explore an expansion. We have to build up our case to be able to expand. Involves a lot of legal findings and addressing the expansion criteria. We've had some folks from the state, Department of Land Conservation Development, help us out to make sure we're able to expand in a way that makes sense closer to our center and up to a direction that would be hard to service. So that process could take a little bit to get there, but city council is aware of the time.
Okay, just clarifying.
I would personally expect that expanding right there and doing just a little bit more, because we can only take what our forecast allows us to. We can't take less or more, it has to be exact. So if our forecast says we need to accommodate 300, 400 people, and we need to take 10 acres to do that. That's all we do. So.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's no such thing as a city street outside the city limits.
No, that's a street built for an urban use. I've tried several times. A couple of years ago, before that was probably interesting property, we explored that idea with the former owner. And we thought he could make it happen. And we ended up doing property line adjustment, which gives us the shape that it is now, with the intent of that little strip being a street. We found out after, we told him several times that it wouldn't be possible, but it's quite possible. Because the county doesn't allow any street to be constructed that serves an urban use. It has to be for their county. No, and
That is kind of
basically,
it's an old.
yeah, he knows that. I mean, ideally, the conversation we just had about expansion would play out in years, you know, I have to take it back. I don't know, these things take a while, sometimes the market and other needs speed up. We would take that money in and be able to develop that. That makes a whole lot of sense. And then the land over here to the west might develop as well, and be more.
Petrotel jail, that area was landlocked.
My guess is,
What,
my guess is somebody told her that, and it got in her head that somebody from some other authority, whether it was somebody who hasn't worked with before, or a different engineer or something, that said, no way. And so I sort of carried that as well, as what I was told, since I got there. And then I just started asking questions, well, why? I'm a why person, I'm not sure, I asked that, why? That's when engineers started to look at it, and of course, we can accommodate development in that. So unfortunately, the answer given 4 years ago was not that. He wasn't ready to sell anything.
Anybody have a phone?
Is there there anybody on the phone with questions? No?
This is Commissioner, hello, this is Paul, and I don't have any questions this time. I have been following as best I can, and no, I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Paul.
So do we want to extend public testimony?
Before you close it?
Yes.
Yeah, so the, close the public hearing, you can't continue.
I get it.
I don't know what's.
Do we want to extend public hearing? Which means we don't deliberate and make a choice right now.
Does that take a motion?
It would, and, there needs to be some sort of a fact finding that we can have the hearing extended, as far as like, there's an issue that the commission agrees on that would require us to do it. I don't want to make it too finite, but,
And can I make a comment?
go for it, Ann.
Yeah, so, I just want to be clear, I'm not sure where the commission is leaning, but the commission can close the public hearing tonight and decide they want to deliberate at a future time. So if there's not any more testimony to take, but you're not ready to deliberate, you can close the record, close the hearing, and then just set another date to deliberate.
Thank you, Ann, for the clarification. So yes, that's another option. All the options.
But and just to clarify, at that point, we don't take any more public testimony or letters or anything, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
By closing it. Number one, I don't think we've addressed the park and open space clearly enough. And I think there's enough buy-in, at least on my part, that is a usable space. I'd like the applicant to maybe bring up something, maybe get with the park committee again, or if they haven't already, and discuss that, and try to get that resolved and come back to something that they feel and would satisfy at least me, and maybe even John here in regards to that is actually going to be recreational and usable park space. Number two is the street improvements. I think that the residents on both North Skinner and North Coleman should be praised of what will happen with those streets. Clearly. The comments that I have gotten when I walked those streets is it was variable as far as what they heard was going to happen. And especially on the restricting of on-street parking. I think we need to hear something back. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, I think
So that's my proposal, is that we continue this hearing to allow staff maybe some opportunity to get really out to those individuals on those two streets, because this is important, it's a hot topic. And then also have the applicant try to get together with staff and maybe somebody represented from the part of the committee. Encourage, if you will, that they can come up with a plan that is a usable part.
I have a question along those lines, Jeff. So what are the ramifications, or what happens if we move to decline on the basis of the usable part being not met? What happens then? Can you guys reapply in a year? I'm sorry. They would be able to appeal the decision. Perfect, okay. So that kicks it to the city council, extend public hearing.
There would be an additional.
Curious.
They wouldn't be able to work it out with the park people before that.
No, they're not. Joe, point of context, the applicant did meet with the Park Tree Committee, a couple members, before the application. Just wanted to let you know that they didn't state that before. It's not a requirement in our code, but it's a request from our community, from our council, so that was, a meeting set up.
One thing that I saw, they were very adaptive. I remember they came at us with a completely different plan after some collaboration. It worked out nicely. That might be something to do. I understand the park issue. I think the relevance of the traffic study, I think, is also an issue. Because it happens during COVID, and with school not in session, with people not going to work. And even if you 40 homes, maybe 20 people using any one time between 8 and 9 to great traffic or the weekends. I just think that I'm concerned about the traffic study of where it is.
Well, I mean, I can further explain what I meant by track city. The trips that are modeled based upon the new sites, the new homes, are not based on what was recorded when they went out there, but based on standards from new homes that they were at in normal conditions. What was recorded, what was existed already, and you combine that to how it affects the intersection of the site.
I think the ones that have said it's with the they proved to be pretty valid. I thought that. So I have nothing against traffic studies. I just don't.
No,
I think that the streets are so short and so few people living on them. It makes it kind of moot whether it's kind of where. Because you just can only talk to them about it being so close. And so the traffic studies, yeah, that makes it hard. And then as far as, I mean, I would of course like to see an environmental park or open space. And I don't know what can be done with that, because I don't know. But as far as the streets and the 16 feet of pavement, yeah, notification to people, I think it's a good idea. But I don't think it's gonna change, the configuration. It's just notification. It's not, because it has to meet the parameters, so it's just seen as a hot issue, other than letting people know. And I'm not sure that they don't.
I'll also note that it doesn't question the validity of whether they need to be notified or saying about these specific possibility of changes to the street or not. They were notified 3 times already. So that's just a point of context. And that's because COVID has done a lot of things. We had to change this around. My concern, I know we're not deliberating at this point, my main concern is with just about every other comment or every comment here today, and it was the traffic. And so my mind goes to, is it too soon? Is it too soon? Right, because if we do expand the UGB in the next conversation, whenever that is, this becomes a lot more viable with 3 ingress and egress. Right, so I'm trying to force it with the 2 streets and answer themselves somehow that makes sense? Why?
No, I wish I said it better articulate. Yeah, I agree too.
No, nobody was really against. Everybody seemed like, yeah, we're good, all about growth. But it's just too aggressive, and then these two streets cannot take this, and, I mean, I know the traffic impact analysis is there, and I've gotta give validity to that, but it is a lot of traffic for those two tiny streets, 16 feet and 20 feet.
I think it's beautiful with the kids.
Trust me, I will say this, I'm on there. No, half the time I want to take my shoe off and throw it at the cars driving by my house just on Austin when they're going so fast. So it's a concern, it's a big deal. I said it, I'm on record. I've never done it. So I think there's a lot of valid concern, tons of valid concern, which makes me feel, is it too soon? And that's what I'm asking, what are the options? If we decline it, goes to city council, kicks the can down the road, now you have more public comment.
Yeah, there's some consideration then, if you wanna ask about that, there has to be legal findings on how to deny it.
Right, so that would be the arbitrary park space. Usable is subjective, correct?
It sort of is, but that's also, I think, a bit dangerous to condition that, a lot easier to deny it, but it's your decision, of course. And it just, anyway, that's my sort of caution. If you're talking about.
I understand that.
What's your hope in asking it all?
Oh, I don't hope it goes that direction. I'm just trying to figure out the options of what happens if it gets declined. What if we decline it based on this? And you're right, we can condition that way easier than we can decline it. I understand that. I get that.
Traffic in general, this town does have increased edge. It's not just this project that can cause traffic, complications before in this town. It's another project and then other traffic being brought up by city council moving forward. So naturally, that is considered in this town. And from what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing.
So by extending the public hearing, does it give the applicants a chance to develop a little bit more specificity around stuff that wasn't concerned at all?
Well, I would
Going
say,
back to the owners of the property, asking again. so we can
related
find-
to some of the code considerations, maybe, concerns for safety and traffic, albeit valid, it's not a zoning code consideration, it can't be zone behavior. A bunch of people call me a social engineer and not. So there, while it's a valid concern, that is something that is not a criteria that this subdivision is subject. The parks and open space being suitable, usable recreation and open area, that is specifically called out as something that is subject to planning commission approval. That's something you could ask about. The sort of connections through to the other streets, I mean, I talk to all of them personally. I'm insuring myself for $1 million, but that's not reasonable, it's not gonna happen. They're not interested at all in Macy and Vanda. So, and the traffic study doesn't show that, as far as code criteria, that we can require that. And that's just my code thinking. Other those considerations. No, those are kind of the things. That's my sort of context and process explanation. Our city attorney explained, you put an option you could use is close the public hearing tonight and set a specific date for deliberation. And if you can hear me, correct me if I'm wrong, if they close the public hearing tonight and set a specific date for deliberation, is there opportunity for the planning commission to ask the applicant for more information to bring to that?
So what you can do is you can close the public hearing and leave the record open, which is very common. It basically puts everything into written submittals, so there won't be any more testimony. A common schedule is to leave the record open for 7 or 14 days, and then an additional 7 to allow. So assuming the applicant put in information on the first 7 or 14 days, then you give another 7 days for any opponent to respond to that, and then the applicant gets final rebuttal. So there's an ability to leave the record open, but not have the hearing remain open. So you have the written record left open, and then you schedule a certain date to come back and deliberate based on what you've heard today and the new information that you get during that open record period.
That explains what I was asking. Yes. Does that make sense to everybody? Does. Yeah. In no way am I suggesting this, I'm just making sure that you're kind of asking about these options. This is your option.
I have no need for more information or questions. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Good. Realize
I'm willing to, I personally don't need contract, so I'm willing to take more time to make everybody, they consider the way that they're comfortable with.
yeah, I guess I know what they're saying. Right. Decisions be made tonight, I can do that. We want to, I've been in a situation before where we closed the hearing, but left the record open. That proved very beneficial in that particular public hearing. So I know that works. It's something that I would say we're considering. People are unsure about the decision one way or the other.
Commissioner Thompson, we're kind of going around asking where people are in their preference for process going forward, what they'd rather do, if they're comfortable in voting already, or if you would like, considering what's been brought up, to ask the record to be open.
Thanks, Jeff, and I've had a little bit of difficulty hearing the last couple of speakers. I don't know if they're furthest from the microphone.
Yes.
Generally, I'm going to give sort of a two-part answer. I would be comfortable voting on a decision tonight. However, I'm not opposed to the option that Ann described a few minutes ago, which is to close public hearing and leave the record open. And I would ask that it be left open. I'm not restricting it to this, but I would ask that it be left open specific request to the applicant around the Parks and Open Space question. That is the one outstanding issue I would be most interested in hearing more about. I'm not sure that I would be I'm not uncomfortable with the other issues or the other points that have been raised. In other words, I am comfortable with what I've heard on those. I would be ready to make a decision tonight. But the one I would be open to hearing more about is around the parking issue. I hope that makes sense and is in line with what you were asking just now.
Absolutely, and the last couple of speakers you mentioned you couldn't quite hear well said almost the same thing you did. So just to kind of fill you in.
Okay.
However, I don't want, I would like to work with the certain so that everything's addressed. I think that's important. Well, can we, how can we condition the park and
I think it might be tough to come up with that right now. The option of deliberating after more details provided through closing a public hearing and getting the record open is a good avenue to do that. I don't want to side with any sort of position, but that is a way to accomplish that. If you want to come up with some way to condition it right now, this is something to hammer out. But I'll as well.
We can, I don't know the process of it. We can vote to either stay or not. Or we can vote to vote now.
Let me ask the attorney about sort of like deliberation on whether you come to public hearing. And if the commission is deciding whether they want to close the public hearing just to kind of get a head count, or what's the procedure to go about that?
You could just poll the committee.
Okay.
The commission and see, see where everybody is and just do it as a poll.
Okay, so just a sort of a poll of everyone on sort of the topic of if everybody in favor of closing the public hearing and leaving the record open for a set amount of time. So that is sort of whether the motion can be specific later. So,
Right, so will anyone entertain a motion? All entertain a motion to
just an informal poll for this part before you decide that.
you want to?
I'd be good with closing the public hearing, leaving the record open.
So.
I agree. All right, we'll do that.
Okay, before we sort of close it, because that'll be a very official thing, do you want to decide when that would be? We're talking about a certain amount of time for requesting the applicant for as much detailed information as you can get them for a set amount of days from today. Whether that be, as our attorney said, 7 or 14 days. At that point, anybody that wants to testify against or would have an opportunity to respond to that, then you deliberate with all that written testimony. So.
Yeah, and I think it would be helpful in the motion to also have a date set for the next deliberation.
Right, yeah, I was just gonna use the same wavelength. I was just kind of counting those days. And our normal planning commission date is 15th. I figured that out already. So the third Wednesday, early in the month. We don't, that's just what's set aside. You can set a different date. That is only, well, that's exactly 28 days right now. So that does leave a small window. What that means is if you give the applicant 14 days from today to submit more information, and the record is open for rebuttal for additional 7 days, that all that information would have to be put in the report on that exact same day. The report has to be ready for 7 days ahead of time. That's just in consideration. Chair, we have a question for you.
Just a statement, we'd be fine with 7 days.
Oh.
We could have the commission see by then.
That helps out. So a sort of scenario here could be 7 days for the applicant to get more information in, additional 7 days for rebuttal. And you keep that regular planning commission time.
Can I interrupt?
Yep.
So you actually have to do a 777 because the applicant has to have the final rebuttal. So you're missing a stage there. So June 24th for the applicant to submit whatever the commission decides they want to ask them for. July 1st for a response, and then July 8th for final rebuttal from applicant.
Okay. So that will work under one condition, and that's you get the packet material less than a week before the next week. And that's I mean, that's up to you. It's just they'll have till 5 p.m. that day. No person putting together a packet will have that ready that same night.
Also, we have it, Jeff.
Another option is to have that final rebuttal shorter. It sounds like the applicant's willing to move forward quickly, so
I was going to
they
say
want to set that applicant's final rebuttal by a couple of days.
That was what I didn't know that was an option, so thank you. And that's sort of up to the applicant. So say you have the dates that were spelled out, 24th, July 1st. July 1st is a Wednesday, kind of a weird weekend to be able to respond to something. That's July 1st weekend. But even one day, sure, we're all abiding by guidelines. Even one day would be a big deal. Even the 7th would be a big deal. One whole day to prepare for it. If that's up to you guys.
So when would you want us to have our rebuttal in?
6 or 7.
Yeah, maybe end of day 6. That's 5 days. Yeah. It all depends on what you're comfortable with. Maybe end of day 6, end of day 7.
We do the end of day 7.
Okay, that'll work. That'll just sort of help prepare that meeting. Okay, so we're keeping track. The motion, well, you guys have all head nodded to close the public hearing. The motion would be that we keep the and follow along in case I say anything wrong here. That we move to keep the public record open for request of the applicant for detail it out what you're gonna ask them for until for 7 days from today. Opportunity for rebuttal for 7 additional days, and then for the applicant to have a response to that rebuttal until 7 seconds. So that's how it should be. So we're gonna go in detail about what that.
Who's rebutting?
Anybody who has standing, anybody who has their record, their name on the provided testimony or yeah, there's probably a list of 25.
So do they get a written letter saying this is happening? How do they find that out?
Yep, we have to send it to everybody.
Well, you don't really have to.
Oh.
The burden is really on the parties who are interested to get in touch with.
Let us know. Yeah.
And share that information. Unless Jeff, if you want to provide that.
I'll commit to it. I mean, we have all their phone numbers and emails. Getting a well-crafted message that they are going to have an opportunity to rebut or to look at the additional information in the record is not that.
So now we have to come up with what we're asking to.
Yeah, it's a good, I do all that before you decide to close the public hearing and do the motion, just so we have all of that.
to the open space. And what I'd like to see the applicant do is to get some concurrence. We had testimony tonight, public testimony tonight. The Park and Street Committee did not believe that the drainage ditch in that area was suitable for parks and recreation. And I agree with that. And therefore, I'd like the applicant to get back with the Park and Street Committee and get some concurrence from them that would satisfy us. So that's what I don't believe what they're proposing is suitable for kids to play and people to enjoy.
A caution that request because it's no part of any sort of criteria to the parks and trees. It's reasonable to ask them for details if that's what we're talking about. And I think that's probably what they're thinking to provide. But you have testimony from the Park and Tree Committee that it is not suitable recreation area. And that's your decision to make on how suitable it is. So you're asking for more suitability.
Right.
And so I just don't want you to ask them to deal with the Park and Tree Committee because they're not going to be able to do that. So, yeah. Especially in 7 days.
So what do I say?
Well, you're not making any sort of specific motion right now. We're just trying to come up with details. So just so you get concurrence.
Well, I think we're just looking for a little more that there's some way of space is something other than just a one strip drainage. And that if you can try to learn
I'm sure that's very concrete for you and very, very actionable, so I apologize about the thing. I think that the lady who spoke about the percentages of land and of percentages of land allocated to develop the swale did not constitute the recreation. And I think that's, so is it reasonable to ask?
I think that we can come back with a proposal. I mean, I just want to clarify, it's parks and open space. It doesn't say parks for little kids to play in. If you don't like your code, then change your code.
It does say suitable for recreation.
It does say suitable for recreation. Right. And then walking past is certainly suitable for recreation. Right. But I understand that you are happy with it. We can come back with a different proposal. But it's not, I mean, it is parks and open space. So that's a lot of open space. So I think that some consideration should be given to the amount of open space. Maybe you don't want that consideration to the balance. But some consideration should be given.
I don't question, I have a question about the percentage of open space. I think it's just whether or not it's suitable for what they consider a park, a place people to recreate. I don't see saying that drainage is someplace that's suitable for recreation. I just don't buy it.
Sure. They're walking paths all over next to these main.
I got one right beside me.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're all over the place. People walk on because there's wildlife that is out in there.
Yeah.
There's walking paths all over
And
them.
blackberries and those kinds of things. So
I think the detail here is like, on the plan, which is contours of a drainage ditch. And it's hard to imagine unless it's there to see that happen. So I think that's really the crux is, if I know there's a path that can fit in there, that is recreation. And I don't know, but that's kind of what I'm seeing with the Fair Garden line here.
We can provide more details.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yeah, I should try and maybe focus on the request that we have to make as part of the motion. And I agree with most of the discussion that's happening, and I agree that it's not so much about the percentage of land. I understand the open space portion of what we're talking about. And I think of examples of open space with walking paths being suitable for recreation. So I think that, as part of the motion, and maybe Ann can weigh in whether this is adequate. I think the part of the motion that we're trying to craft right now will be very simple and just saying that we're leaving the record open for further consideration and additional details on how the requirement for addressing appropriate recreation use of the park and open space land will be handled.
Okay.
Good call.
So specific and general and all.
Right.
As far as process goes, public hearing is still open. Sounds like we might be in a place where public hearing would be able to make a motion to leave the record open based on the dates, requesting the applicant to do what you stated. And as part of closing the public hearing, do they need to make a motion beforehand, or can they close the public hearing and make a motion to leave the record open with all the details afterwards?
You could do it either way. You could make two separate motions. You can close the hearing if you wanted to, and then deal with the other stuff separately, just to keep it maybe more streamlined.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we didn't take care of it in the public hearing.
Oh, no.
Second?
Second.
Paul, there's just for your information, because you need to vote on this, there's a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll let you know, or we'll speak up when it's your turn to vote.
Right, so I guess we vote. So you want to go down the line, or do you want to just say?
Are we doing, well, Samuel's here doing some counting. We can,
It's easier just for somebody on the phone.
right, we can do down the line voting because of, so whichever direction. Paul, it's your turn to vote to close or not, aye or nay.
Aye. Works. So now the next one. So we're going to extend the testimony. 14 days.
Keep the record open for 7 days for the applicant to get, whatever, say it, however you say it, I'm not gonna say it. Additional 7 days for rebuttal, and until July 7th for applicant response to everybody.
Paul, did you get all that? Go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Go for it.
After you get done with all of that, can you add in the date certain for the next meeting?
Oh, yeah, thank you. The date certain for the next meeting in July. And you can say it's regularly scheduled. Time and place. Okay. Name the time and place, which will be for your normal decision. July 15th, 7 p.m. Public City Hall. 911 on the line. Gotta be specific.
July what?
15th. 4 weeks from today.
So why don't we just leave the record open 14 days or 7 days?
7 days for applicant to respond, additional 7 days for rebuttal, until July 7th for applicant response to that rebuttal.
Okay.
And
The deliberation meeting is set for July 15, 7 p.m. over City Hall, 911-651.
For further clarification by the applicant.
Right, when you're saying while you're leaving the record open for the first section of that 7 days, that's when you say exactly. Yeah, so somebody's got to make that move.
That was the closed.
Or that. How about I'll entertain a motion, I can say it, and then somebody says, sure. That works?
Somebody can say some move if somebody doesn't.
So I'll entertain a motion for keep the record open for 7 days, and then, further 7 days for the, applicant to respond. Well, but, sorry.
No, it was 7 days for the applicant to provide additional details regarding parking, parks, and open space, recreation suitability. There.
Right, so that, and then, you have to be in by July 7th.
Yeah, they have to have their response, their details, their 24th. Rebuttal can come into July 1st, and the applicants can respond to the rebuttal until July 7th.
Right, and then we'll meet, discuss this and decide about July 15th at 7 p.m. Over City Hall, in the city address.
91136 North Atlanta.
91136 North. Anyone else?
I so moved.
Can we vote? Okay.
Commissioner Thompson, just for your information, we have a motion and a second for what has been moved. I'm not going to try to repeat all that right now. I hope you got it. You said it earlier.
I was able to capture that. I'm fine with my understanding of the motion.
Okay, thanks. Aye. All your turn. Aye. Thank you.
All right. So next is a city update.
Report. Well, what do we know? We have the person who writes this report in the room right now. We usually don't. I usually say, explain everything in the report on the city administrator. No. I include the city administrator's report in the planning commission.
Happy
So,
to answer any
yeah,
questions.
I usually go through things that I know more about, highlight them. But since we're a city administrator, if there's any projects or any sort of things going on, you might have any questions on, we can answer the heck out of them.
Where is the well?
How public are the conversations regarding that and what we're doing, and how far along are they?
The well property is to the north of the city, now south.
I'm assuming it's the one that's been discussed for a while now. So they found it located.
Yeah, we're still sort of negotiating.
Say exactly what property you're in, but
Yeah.
it is in that vicinity.
Yeah, the city of North Stallings negotiating the sale and or lease and the specificity of how the land will be used going forward, including the potential well site, which we still would need to secure a temporary easement to do actual test drilling on the site. We've done a general vicinity test drill that allows us to know that there is good water in the area. Now we have to make sure we can actually get it right there. It seems like it's never ending.
The potential parts, right?
Yeah. have any regulations related to short-term rentals. So our city is huge on that. So, yeah.
I wonder if, you get a citizen inquiry and such, then would the city take it up?
It'd be up to council. It's something that as a staff member, I've brought up a couple times here and there, related to a few things, whether they do want to limit Airbnb as a maximum sort of around the city or per square mile. And there's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of local cities are way ahead, would have a lot to learn from, but also we want to impose our own local tax on it too. So revenue source that was very specific. I don't know, project or need. There's a lot of things you could do, but it's, until maybe there's an inquiry or enough questions at city council about it.
This is the best part.
Police report?
Oh, no, I'm not. I appreciate
Somebody's mentioned
this is the running of the city. This is not.
Yeah.
Nothing. Nothing against the crap we do. I just.
No, that's fair enough.
There's a lot happening right now. Right now.
I get caught up in that.
Any other questions on city updates or any other questions in general for the good of the order? Any questions, Paul? You still there? Anybody?
I'm here. No questions. So thanks.
Thank you, Paul. If you want.
Y'all want to adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
No, you can just do it.
Oh, good.
9:45.
Adjourn.
To meet the minimum density. Yeah, so there's a weird thing, they could have done more, the maximum. Their meeting, yeah. And so the minimum density for traditional residents is 4.5 lots per acre. And it's 10.24 minimum. Yeah, and that's a 41 lot. Right. And so the other one was 10.4 lots per acre.
It was known as medium density. And that can't be changed.
Not now, not in this price. No, it would have to change. Before, after. But yeah, it's one of those things that's just assigned to that spot. It made it a ton harder.
Why no? It seems like it could have been so much easier. 15, 20, like, you have the traffic issue, you have. Okay, so the non-traditional medium was below. So any development right now